Tonight we're going to be talking about divorce.
And establishing parenting time.
Yeah. One of those things that we find more and more in this county is as folks go through the process of divorce, they learn very quickly that the emphasis in the court system is those concerns about the children, about the children having exposure to both parents, about developing a parenting plan that encourages the child to be involved with both sets of families. You know, Carrie mentioned last week, it says, the marriage may be over, but, your job as a parent
never ends.
That never ends.
Continues,
yeah.
right.
Your mom or your dad for life. And unfortunately, we've seen so many people that get caught up in the distress of a divorce that as the tensions rise and the anger rises and the folks become so upset, if you will, mindset. We talk about this notion of circular thinking when you ruminate. Yeah. We've got a chapter in our book. Do you remember the title of that?
It's squirrel caging.
Yeah, stop squirrel caging. I've even mentioned to many of the folks that are sitting in one of my seminars about them driving someplace and it's a boring drive. And as they look out the windshield and they space out, if you will, because they're driving down interstate, there's nobody around them. They're doing like 60 miles an hour. They're cruising at highway speed. And as they have nothing to challenge their thought processes, they drift to those unresolved issues.
That's right. Most of us daydream about the bad stuff driving.
Yeah.
The troublesome stuff we try to process instead of daydreaming about, the weekend or the wonderful time I'm going to have coming up.
So unfortunately that, we become very turmoiled about this thing called divorce and it does affect the kids. But tonight we're going to be talking about divorce and establishing parenting time. Just to define a few things, and if you will, we're going to talk about what is it to be a shared parenting. What is a shared parenting plan?
Right,
okay?
And it is one of the requirements that we all have when we get divorced. It has to be signed off by the judge. It is part of the final thing. So a shared parenting plan is an arrangement after separation or divorce in which both parents continue a strong, positive relationship with their children.
There's no real definition of what a parenting plan looks like. And as tonight we're talking about some of the many things that are looked at as the parenting plan is developed. But understand that the focus is that it calls for the children to have equal and significant amounts of time with both parents.
Right.
There's no intentional effort within the judicial system to remove a parent from being involved with those kids.
No, the system actually wants both parents to be involved and as equally as they can be.
Not to be confused with our own personal experience, which is one parent who is absolutely determined that they're going to monopolize the child and isolate the child and prohibit that person. But there's a lot of benefits of a shared parenting plan. And one is, when we really work hard at this, it reduces the need for the children to choose between the parents.
Right. We've talked about that. Kids are loyal and love both parents. They're a part of both of us. A plus B equals AB, not C.
Not C. The idea that my children are different in the sense that they share the genetics of me and my partner. So those children for the rest of their lives will be living with the knowledge that there's mom and there's dad. And we sometimes forget because we've seen people get so caught up in taking sides.
That's right.
That they really don't realize there's a real possibility of emotional harm to those children if you attempt to persuade them to hate their mother or hate their father or stay away from their mother or stay away from their father.
Right.
The other thing about a shared parenting plan is that it gives the children equal opportunity to have a meaningful relationship, with each parent equally.
That's right. Another one is allows both parents to reassure the children that they're loved.
Children need reassurance, lots of it. And unfortunately, when one parent is trying to, if you will, tarnish the reputation of the other to the child, the child is stuck because, I love you, Mom, and I don't want you to disapprove of me. So the child leans to accepting whatever mom says about dad or dad says about mom. And all this can cause unbelievable problems later in life as that child tries to move forward in his or her own mate selection.
That's right. And then another benefit to shared parenting is that it reduces the distance, both the physical distance and the emotional distance between the child and the absent parent. What parent am I not with today?
Yeah. That idea that I miss mom or I miss dad. And we hear it all the time. We hear children talk very much about, I miss my mommy, I don't see them, and where are they, and why can't I see them, etc. And yet, when it's the notion of one parent to actively or assertively remove that, that's just not good for the child. The parent may be in their own mind retaliating in some way that they get some satisfaction, but that satisfaction for them is not good for the children.
Right. On the other end of that, when you see a kid that is a child of parents that have learned to share well, they actually don't have that fear of abandonment and that sense of when will I see my other parent again, because they do have the reassurance and the comfort and the stability of going back and forth and seeing mom and dad.
So let's give you some tips on making a shared parenting plan work. And the first one is always respect your ex and show civil behavior towards them.
Right.
Civil behavior, courtesy, politeness, punctuality, all those are the types of behaviors you would expect to show that I respect you. Understand that you've often heard us say that understanding is mandatory and agreeing is optional. You don't have to ever agree with your partner. You don't have to agree to the divorce. You don't have to agree to many things that have to do with, in fact, the ultimate outcome, which is divorce. Right. But learn to understand them.
Right.
Second bullet.
Never argue in front of your children. Never. If it's a topic, if it's a disagreement between us and the kids are present, this is not the time to have this discussion.
Yeah. When you argue in front of the children, those children learn from you. They watch you. They mimic you. They are not caught up in this idea of mom and dad having anger in a positive way. In fact, it's not unusual that children will start crying when they see their parents fight and argue. They may be sitting on the outside watching silently, and you see them begin to cry, or you see them begin to have this demeanor that obviously looks like they're concerned. The next one, as you will, be on time for exchanges and appointments.
Yeah. Think about how you treat anybody in life. Most of us have the courtesy, if we're going to be late, to call and let somebody know that we're going to be late. If we make an appointment, we do our best to keep it.
Sure.
And it's the same with your co-parent.
I sometimes run into my workaholic parents that give so much value to their employment, that they over-embellish the need for them to be late. The problem is, of course, when you're late and everybody is waiting on you, it's sort of violating their boundaries. It's putting them in a one-down position. And even though you may tell everybody you've got to be late because of how hard you work and your dedication and commitment to your job, it doesn't make it any better for them as you show that they are not as important as the other things in your life.
Right.
The next one.
Don't ask your children to spy on your ex.
Boy, do we see a lot of that.
Yeah, we do.
Mom asked the child, "What was was dad home Friday night? Did you have a babysitter? Was dad alone that night? Where did dad go?"
Mm-hmm.
There's some premonition that if I know what you're doing, that I may be able to understand you better.
Yep.
And so the idea that I use the children to gain information.
Yeah. Next.